Here's how Atlas Shrugged is playing out in our everyday lives. In the premise of the book, everything started to go horribly when the government would come in with extreme regulation and rules and restrictions preventing the entrepreneurs and producers of the world from producing. And what happened? They drove them away. It started with the John Elliots, the Hank Reardons, person after person, the biggest entrepreneurs of the world. They were the ones making stuff that we use in our everyday lives, making us rich. As we know, the wealthier the society is, the more goods and services they have. So these people who were making society richer were being pushed away by the government because they were told that they were bad. We see this again happening with the ESG movement, pushing away the oil and gas companies that are quite literally allowing the economy to thrive, because there's a direct correlation between energy consumption and our standard of living. So the elites are trying to push down energy consumption, or by driving down the amount of energy that we have, thereby reducing our standard of living. And we can see this happening throughout our everyday lives, whether it's paying much more for goods and services. When you go to a restaurant, you're paying 3, 4, 5 times as much. Gas prices are through the roof. In some cases, you can't even access the same goods and services you had prior to 2019. At first, when I read the book in 2020, I got an Atlas Shrugged tattoo on my leg, and I was in high school, and I actually put for my graduating quote, it was Atlas Shrugged. At the time, it just seemed like a forecast of the future, but it seems like we are actually here today. If we are at the beginning stages of this now, how much worse can it actually get? I mean, it seems like these policies are only going to increase and increase, and our standard of living could continuously go down because we are pushing away the actual producers of this world. We are disincentivizing any sort of entrepreneurial activity through massive laws and regulation and humongous taxes, offshoring everything and preventing any sort of free market from working. And I don't know how much worse it can get, but it seems like our standard of living will have to get much, much worse before we find our galt panacea of sorts.
Yeah, I mean, the way I would think about it is, I mean, I'm fond of saying it's hard to bounce back before you hit bottom. My hope is that sooner or later people are going to wake up. The hope is that people, when I say wake up, sooner or later people are going to have to retool their priorities and realize that just because something makes you feel good doesn't necessarily mean it's morally good. Just because something makes you feel bad doesn't necessarily mean it's morally bad. It's nuanced, or things are nuanced. Obvious one I can see on the horizon, and hopefully this doesn't happen, but like this is where I would look first. Look at Europe and consider what's going on right now. So right now we're going at, we're in June right now, so we're in the summer. But when you look at North Europe, or when you look at the Northern European plain, they use gas to heat their homes. And if you have either an increase in price due to a single supplier, Russia, or some sort of supply shock where you can no longer get gas that you wanted to get in the quantity that you demand, well, you're going to have an issue. And this is, I think, exactly to your point. You see the reality of people's beautiful dreams going back to Gerhard Schroeder, taking German nuclear power plants offline, meeting the brute reality of, we're going to, rally around some moral cause because it makes us feel good. And in doing so, we are going to set up, or we're going to stack dominoes, or we're going to stack the decks, so we might be very, very regretful in the future. Again, it's much easier to go without gas in the summertime when it's warm than in the wintertime when it's cold. So that'd be an example of that. And hopefully, Josh, this is, I think, maybe to your point, is that if people have to go through a little bit of pain to kind of, give them a slap across the face, you hope it's just that versus, having to like chop off a finger or lose a leg or something.
And one of the main premises of the book was that for our society to work at maximum capacity would be that everyone is working in their best self-interest. And that is almost the complete opposite of what we hear today, because people are greedy and they should never, ever push towards working for themselves. And what is altruistic is actually helping other people. Well, people actually like to help people. I'm sure if you enjoy holding the door for an elderly person or walking them across the street, people are naturally good. And when they work for their self-interest, they try and solve problems that we see in everyday lives. With the government putting all these rules and regulations and humongous taxes, it prevents people from doing such things that we are seeing today. And that is going to push us further and further down this Atlas Shrugged type dystopian world. I don't know how far we will get, if we will ever achieve a full Atlas Shrugged. Hopefully we never do, because if the producers of the world ever do just let go of the world, then we could have a very rude awakening for the mass amount of people who just think that everything is handed to them. And it just makes sense. You go to the grocery store and you get all your necessities. It's where does that come from? People just thinks it comes from the grocery stores, but that actually has a much longer and further supply chain that it has to be made at some point, and we are pushing away the people who actually make things. And the further down we go, the worse and worse this will get. I hope that this will stop. A lot of people think Bitcoin is the answer to that. Personally, I don't know, but more deregulation would definitely help. But at the end of the day, we do need producers producing again.
Yeah. What I would say is, I don't know if Bitcoin is the answer, but it certainly is it certainly has started, I think, the right discussion. So that's my take on that. What I also note too, Josh, is I think sooner or later, I think humanity is going to have to make a choice, and it's going to boil down to the plan that the elites have. Which, if you think back to the Georgia Guidestones, they want to maintain 500 million humans on Earth in a perpetual balance with nature, where people can all stand around the campfire, hold hands, and sing "Kumbaya." One of these, beautiful dreams, which is probably masking a horrible nightmare. So that's the first thing. It's basically through death, destruction. I mean, they don't call it like this, but this is really what it is. It's sin in a sense that it's death, destruction, horrible things, or whatever, right? Depopulation. The other one is making better use of what you got, and that probably means one is where humanity has to go to the stars and figure out how to do better with what we've got. So that would be like maybe the happy thing, and maybe the elite plan, the for the Klauses and all the others is this depopulation, this other nonsense. I mean, well, back up. Let's not go too far down the rabbit hole, but that's I think what it boils down to. And my sincere hope is that we are able to, both as a species and on the individual level, realize our mistakes and change or repent and change our ways before it's too late, or with at least as minimal damage as being done as possible.
Let us know if you think Atlas Shrugged is playing out in front of us today.